welcome back to my channel. I have a ton of embossing pastes in front of me right now, and I'm getting ready to make some backgrounds using all of the different kinds of pastes and one stencil. And I'm actually using this stencil. This is an older one from Hero Arts. It's called Large Lotus Pattern. And I really like this because it's got a lot of big open spaces on the blooms, and I think it'll be really pretty to try with the different pastes. And I'm getting ready for a craft show coming up. It's in the fall, in the late fall, but I figure you can never get started too early. And what I like to do sometimes is to make a lot of different backgrounds for cards and kind of set them off to the side, and then grab a few and kind of doctor them up with some embellishments and different sentiments and things like that. And then you can make a lot of the same card, or you can make some different ones depending on the different kinds of embellishments you use. So today I thought I'd just kind of show you my process. And if you haven't tried embossing pastes, it's kind of an older product. I haven't seen them being used a lot lately. I feel like kind of in Instagram and things like that, I've been seeing a lot of die cutting, but embossing paste is great. I love using it for with my stencils. It gives great texture, and I'll show you the different kinds you can get that all kind of have a different look to them, so they're kind of fun to use. So I kind of went through and was looking at what I had, and I haven't gotten these out in a long time. And I settled on 5 different pastes. So let me show you what I'm going to be doing with each of them. So I'm using the stencil, and I'm going to try this. I have this metallic silver paste. This is from Dreamweaver. I'll try to leave links to the different kinds of pastes where I can. I'm not sure what's still available anymore, but I'll show this up close. This is really pretty. It's just a kind of a pearlescent silver look to it, and I thought it would look really pretty on a piece of thick vellum. And what I'm going to do is I'm just basically creating a base here, and then I'm going to attach it to the front of a white card, and this will be the background. So for this silver, I thought it would look really pretty on vellum. This is kind of a thicker vellum, so you want to use, there's different levels of thickness on vellums. I think you can get the really thin kind, but this, you want to try to find a really thick piece. This kind I really like is from CutCardStock, and it's almost as thick as regular cardstock, but it's got that kind of nice foggy vellum look. So I'm going to pair this with the silver paste. I think that will be really pretty. The next one I wanted to try was the pearlescent embossing paste. So this doesn't have a color. It's more of kind of like basically a pearl color. So you can see here, it's kind of pearlized. So it gives a nice kind of, it can do a tone-on-tone look on a white cardstock, but I thought this one would be really pretty on this blue cardstock. And this is another piece from CutCardStock. This is actually called Light Blue, and I like it. It's kind of like a periwinkle blue color, and I thought this matched with the pearl would look really pretty. So we'll try this one. The next one, let's try this one, Glossy Black. So this is one that, you know, you wouldn't use a lot of times. You'd probably go more towards the pearlescent or some of the other ones I'm going to show you, but Glossy Black can always be good to kind of give a really dramatic look. And let me show you this. It's a very, very glossy, as you can see. And this one you probably want to use last if you're going to make multiple stenciled backgrounds, just because it's probably the most messiest. So I'm going to save this one for last, but I'm going to pair this one with just plain white cardstock. And I think this will look really pretty and dramatic with a nice crisp white background with the black lotus flower pattern on the front. So we'll do that one for our third one. And then another type of embossing paste is translucent. And translucent paste just kind of comes out, it almost looks like glue, and it sets the same way as the other embossing pastes, only you get, rather than a white, you get kind of a clearish sort of foggy look to it. So again, really pretty as a tone-on-tone, which I'm going to try with this white cardstock here. So we'll see how that looks with that. And then another great thing about regular embossing paste, or also pearlescent, so when it's the white color, you can mix it with inks and make it the color that you want. So I thought this would be fun to mix this is just plain matte embossing paste, and I'll show you this. It just kind of looks like plaster, and this I'm going to mix with a Distress Oxide cracked pistachio. And if you have the I don't know if they sell the liquid ink in this form, but the pad works just as well. And what I'll do is I kind of smush it down on this mat that I have here, and it'll get all the color on there, and then I'll mix some of this plain embossing paste with it, and it'll kind of turn it this cracked pistachio color. And then I'm going to pair that with the white cardstock too, and we'll see what that background looks like. So one of the things I like to use with any stencils is this Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station, and it's just this metal platform here that you can just set down on your table or whatever. It protects your table, it wipes clean, and then it's got these magnets that come with it, and you can attach your stencil with the magnets, and it keeps your paper and your stencil from moving, and it's really convenient. So let me see. I think I'm gonna save the black embossing paste for the end. So let's go ahead and start with the pearlescent paste with the blue. So I'm just gonna, and it's got this nice grid pattern too, so it's nice you can line your paper up here. So make sure I line it up so you can see it in the camera here. So I'll just kind of line this up straight. Then I'm going to grab my stencil here and make sure I have this. Oh, here, I put it on the other side here. And then I'm just going to try to, I think I'm just going to stencil the whole thing. Sometimes it's kind of fun to do a portion of the stencil, but this is so pretty. I think I'm just going to cover the entire stencil. So I'm just going to kind of line everything up and get the placement where I want it. If you don't have one of these Make Art Stations, you could use some Post-it tape or painter's tape to secure everything down to your workspace, and just maybe put a big piece of old white paper underneath just to kind of keep everything from getting messy too. That's also an option. So let me see, I want to make sure I don't have any like weird, I'm going to kind of line this up with the border so I don't get any strange edges on it. So let me see here. The lining up is the hardest part. Okay, and then I'm going to just attach my magnets like this. So that looks good. Make sure everything is kind of flush to the bottom here. And then I'm going to go ahead and open my paste. Some of the tools I like to use, I have these spreaders. You can get these online at like scrapbook.com or Amazon or anything like this. They're just different palette knives. This was a three palette set. I mainly use this for kind of scooping it on, but I think I find the easiest thing to use to spread the stencil or the embossing paste is just an old credit card or a gift card. It really gets a nice smooth finish, but the palette knives are nice to kind of plop it on to the stencil. So I'm just going to use this one here. You don't need a ton because a little goes a long way. So I'll do about this much. You can always add a little more if you need to, but I think this should be plenty because you don't want to waste it. So you want to make sure you put everything back in the jar to save it for the next project. So I just have the little amount here, and then I'm just going to start spreading it kind of top to bottom, and just make sure your stencil lays flat and you cover all of the blue areas with the paste. Make sure you get everything covered. It's kind of fun using this. I always feel like I'm a real artist using, when you use mixed media things, because I don't usually use a lot of mixed media like messy watercolors and that kind of thing and paint. So embossing paste is about the messiest I get. So it's kind of fun. So you just kind of want to go back and forth and make sure you kind of cover all the bases, get all the cardstock covered. You also want to kind of smooth it in one. You want to make sure there's no ridges. So you want to kind of really smooth it flat so you don't get the weird little ridges on top of the paste. So when I'm ready to lift this up, you just want to make sure you get it over to this, get your stencil over to the sink really quickly, rinse everything off so that you're ready to do the next project, because you don't want the paste to harden on your stencil. Then it's kind of it's hard time. You'll have a hard time getting it off. And it's not going to look perfect. I mean, that's the whole idea is, you know, it is artistic. So you don't want it to look completely manufactured. So it's going to have little imperfections here and there. So go ahead and remove the magnets, and then we'll see what we end up with. So it's good to kind of hold one corner and then kind of pick up the other one. And then just slowly kind of lift it away. All right. That doesn't look too bad. You can also kind of hide imperfections with sentiments and that kind of thing. So you can keep that in mind too. So I really like the way this turned out. So it is a solid background, but it's kind of got that pearlescent look to it. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, clean off my stencil, and then I'm going to move on to the next embossing paste. Okay, so next up, I think I'm going to try the translucent paste, and we'll see what this looks like. It's sticking for some reason here. All right, so this one had a little bit of a mistake here, but I think what I'm going to do is just kind of, oh, that actually took the paper off. Okay, this is where the sentiment's going to go then. I'm not going to do another one because I think the rest of it looks really good, but just the paper got ripped a little bit. I'm not sure why, but anyway, I really like the way this one looks too. It's a little more solid looking now, but once it dries, it's going to be almost clear, but you'll still see the pattern on there. So it'll be a nice kind of texturized pattern. So I'm going to set this aside to dry and clean everything else off and move on to the next. Okay, next we'll try the silver paste. So this one we're going to do on the vellum. So I'll take a big scoop of the silver, stick that right in the middle. I've never tried this color before on vellum, so I think it should be fun to see what this ends up looking like. So this kind of curled the vellum a bit, but I actually like the way it looks. So maybe once the vellum dries, it'll kind of flatten out a little. So we'll see what happens. We might have to make some tweaks with it because obviously you can't use it all curled like that. But I think once you put some adhesive around it and kind of flatten it out, I think it'll look okay. But again, I'm just going to let this dry. I'm going to go clean everything off and we'll move on to the next. Okay, next we're going to try the colored embossing paste. So I'm just using plain it's just a matte embossing paste, and I'm going to mix the Distress Oxide cracked pistachio in with it, and we're going to see what kind of pretty color we get with that. So you just want to kind of scoop out a pretty decent amount of the paste, and this is just a matte it's like a medium matte. I think this is from Tim Holtz. It's just easily cleanable, and you can mix paints and watercolors and all that kind of thing on it. So it's kind of nice to have one of these. And actually, before I did this, I should have squished the ink onto the mat first. But I can do this on the side here. So you just want to get a bunch of ink kind of squished onto the mat here. And we may need to add some more, but we'll start here and kind of see how bright our color gets. So then I'm just going to kind of mix the paste in with the ink. And you're always going to get kind of a lighter color no matter how dark of the ink that you use. But I think this will be nice. Actually, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. So this won't have any shimmer to it. It won't have any type of effect. It's just kind of it'll be just kind of like a plaster texture when it dries. But it'll be really pretty with the inks. Okay, again, you can see I kind of did some little ridges here. I don't know if you can see that. You know, I'm not, there's no way to really fix it. You can cover it up with sentiment or find some other things to cover it up with, and we'll kind of experiment with that later. So, but it's not bad. So I'm going to set this off to dry. Okay, so we're on our last background, which I'll be doing with the Glossy Black Embossing Paste. So I have everything set up with the stencil, and we'll just go ahead and try this one. So like I said, I'm saving this for last because this is probably going to be the messiest one to clean up. So I'm going to make sure I have enough paste on the stencil. But I think this will look really good. I like the look of black and white together. Just inking with black and white looks really good. So try this. Okay, so let's get ready to lift this up. Try not to get this all over my hands. And we'll see what this looks like. All right, that looks pretty good. I love that. Again, a few mistakes, but we'll fix them with enamel dots or something of the sort. So I think it'll be okay. But just this background I think looks really good. It's very dramatic looking with the black and white. So let me show you a close up. I like the glossiness too. That's something you can't get with just plain black ink. You know, that real gloss. Although I guess I take that back. You could get it with VersaFine and clear embossing powder. So actually that is something that you could do, but the paste is good because you get the kind of the dimensional look too. So I think that looks really good. So it's been about 24 hours. I allowed the embossing paste to dry. It's probably a little bit longer than you need to wait, but I thought just to be on the safe side, make sure everything is perfectly dry. So I wanted to show you how everything turned out. And I was excited too that my vellum piece actually ended up uncurling. What I did was it curled, you saw that it curled up completely underneath itself. So what I did was when I let it dry, I just kind of let it stand up like this, and then it eventually uncurled itself. So everything worked out. I think it's a little bit curled a little bit, but if you kind of flatten it out a little, it works out fine. And you're going to be, I'll probably use some sort of a clear tape underneath to secure it. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, let me show you this first. So this is the vellum that I did with the silver embossing paste. I like the way that turned out. And with all of these, you'll see that there are a few little imperfections. And in the video coming up next, I'm going to show you how I fix all those things so that, you know, so you don't have to waste what you've done, because working with pastes and other types of mediums that are like paint and that kind of thing, you're never going to get, you know, that perfect crisp clean look that you would get with a die cut or a perfectly stamped image. And so you kind of have to work with the imperfections. So that's a whole separate video I'm going to do for that. But let's do a close-up of the silver here. So I really like that. It's got a little bit of a kind of a pearlescent look to it. It looks really good with the vellum background. So I'm gonna work with that in the next video. And also I'll mention too, while I was waiting for everything to dry, I kind of got some ideas together for some color combos that I'm going to put together with these backgrounds. And like I said, I want to keep it really simple because it's just going to be 5 quick cards that you just have the backgrounds and you just add a couple of things and you've got 5 greeting cards ready to go for a craft show or any other type of thing that you want to use them for. So I always keep this inspiration folder, which has a whole pile of magazine pages. This is really helpful because I'll just kind of flip through and look at different color combos of furniture, upholstery, other types of things. And it's a great way to kind of get some ideas of how to put color together. And with these backgrounds being all different colors, I needed some ideas for kind of adding some embellishment and things like that. So that's how I spent my time waiting for it to dry. But like I said, in the next video, I'll show you how everything ends up turning out. So this is the vellum with the silver. This is the plain white cardstock with the translucent. So you can see it's very subtle background, but I like it. It's got kind of a shine to it, but it still has that texture, and you kind of see the tone on tone of the lotus flowers from the stencil. So I like that too. This one I think might be my favorite. This is the mint green that I created using the cracked pistachio Distress Oxide ink mixed with the plain matte embossing paste. And I love this light green color, kind of like a jadeite color. I did this with plain white cardstock. Again, a few imperfections, but we'll deal with that later. But I kind of like the subtle color against the white. And I also like the matte texture of it. It's just like it's a nice texture. And you can see with all of these pastes, it's a little bit raised. So I really like that one. So this one is really pretty too. This is the periwinkle blue cardstock background that I did with the pearlescent embossing paste. So it almost has like a silver look to it. If you kind of compare it, you can see that it's a lighter color, but it does have, I think the pearlescent gives it a little bit of a silver look to it, and it's really pretty against the blue. And this is probably the one that turned out the best. So I'm not really sure why. I don't know what I did differently. It's probably just the way that I spread it. You just have to kind of experiment, and but I think I don't forget if this was the first one I did, so who knows. Maybe I was more careful with the first one. So anyway, but I really like the way this one turned out too, so this is going to be really pretty to work with. And then the last one is the black and white, the glossy black with the white cardstock background, and I really like this one too. So it's really glossy, it's got a little bit of texture to it, kind of a really modern look. So I'm excited to see what I can make with this for a greeting card. So that's everything with the paste. I will try and put links below to some options for embossing paste if you're interested in trying, or if you've used them in the past and maybe want to try some different kinds. I love the fact that they make all different textures and colors. One other thing I didn't use was, you've probably seen this. This is Nuvo Glimmer paste, and I think Bo Bunny, I don't know if they still make it or not, but I did have one. I actually had to get rid of it because these types of glitter pastes, they dry out very quickly. So if you don't keep the cap on correctly, or if you don't use it right away, that it can dry out. So this was my Nuvo Glimmer that I actually made a couple cards last Christmas with. It's completely hardened, and I had the cap on too. So I don't know if I didn't have it on tight enough or what happened. So I unfortunately have to get rid of this one. But this red one here, for some reason, I think it's because I left the paper cover on it, and I think this kind of created a seal, and this one is actually usable. So I'm definitely going to keep this little paper disc on the top of it and save it for, it could be Christmas time or Valentine's Day, but it comes in, there's all different colors. It's really pretty. It's very glittery. So I would save it for specific projects where you'd want to have kind of a more glittery accent. So, but just another option. But I'll put a few links below to some of the basic embossing pastes. I don't know. I think my favorite is probably the pearlescent and the matte. Just the matte is so nice because you can add color to it, and gives you different options. So stay tuned for the next video. The one that will be coming out next will be how I put these cards together with embellishments and create 5 greeting cards with them. And also how I cover up the mistakes. So this can help you in your card making if you don't want to throw a project away and you want to try to fix it. I will give you some tips on that. So thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you in my next video.